Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 13 June 2016. Got a trifecta of a From the Sharpening Bench video for you guys tonight. Not really a review, just sort of a show and tell. As you guys know, if you've been keeping up, I've got a pretty big batch of blades in from my #1 volume customer, Scott. And these are 3 of that batch, all Bark River knives and all in that sort of EDC fixed blade class, along with the guest appearance by our featherweight Fox River, which is sort of my super preferred EDC fixed blade, and I'll just use it for size comparison as we go along. So these are the 3 we're looking at tonight, and I think it's always good to get these Bark Rivers in front of the camera because it's so hard to tell looking at their listings. You've heard me say this before. How big is it? How does it carry? How does it fit the hand? All that kind of stuff. Hard to tell from the pictures because they scale them and they're all they look the same. So let's get started, shall we? Here are our 3 guests. Over here we have the Trail Buddy, I believe in Beauties wood handle, and this one's made of S35VN. In the middle we have, and if I butcher this, guys, just go ahead and kill me in the comments. I'm going to say the name like Mike Stewart says the name. This is the Mini Sachs Warncliffe. And over here on the right we have the Rising Wolf. Oh, by the way, the Mini Sachs is in A2, the Rising Wolf in S35, just like the Trail Buddy. I believe, it seems like one of my customers told me that Derek Bone had a hand in the design of the Rising Wolf, and it would sort of make sense as we look at it. We'll kind of explain that. So let's sort of look at them individually, shall we? First, let's take a peek at the Trail Buddy. And this is really a mini version of a marbles pattern. And you'd think, why would you want to take that big, sort of oversized, exaggerated harpoon clip marbles blade profile and make it an EDC size? That's sort of what I thought looking at it, in catalogs and internet listings over the years. It's got about a 4 1/4 inch blade. In fact, the blade's probably longer than the handle on this one. The handle is a 4-finger handle if you're all the way up in the choil in a saber grip or a hammer grip. It sort of becomes a 3-fingered knife in a overhead pinch grip. So it's blade intensive and sort of handle challenged, I guess I would say. But that gives you a lot of blade in a small package. This is the sheath that it comes with. Just that sort of standard Bark River pouch style sheath that can be either vertically carried or cross draw carried. Cross draw if you use this exit, and vertical if you use this exit for your belt. This has been heavily treated with some kind of waterproofing solution. Scott, you have to weigh in the comments and tell us. So here's how the knife fits in the sheath. Gives you a nice nub to pull out with the thumb and forefinger. This is one of the knives that has a feature I don't really care for on Bark River knives, this extra lanyard slot in addition to the lanyard hole. I don't really care for it on these sort of EDC blades because anything that doesn't need to be there that adds to the physical dimension of the knife I really don't like. Now I understand some guys might not like the way that a lanyard affects the grip using the hole, whereas if you use this slot built into the blade tang, that's really not an issue. But just not for me. If I ever got one of these knives, I'd probably grind that sucker off of there. Now, I love all 3 of these knives, and I'm going to talk about the one characteristic that they share that makes me love them. They're all designed for superior slicing ability. The Trail Buddy is about 145 thousandths at the spine in stock thickness, but completely fully flat ground. Over oh gosh, more than an inch of blade height, and it comes to a scary skinny dimension behind the edge. It does fatten up just a little bit at the base, but that's sort of standard fare with Bark River knives. And in S35VN, it's such a great all-purpose steel. It holds an edge like nobody's business. It takes a great polish, a super keen edge, easy enough to sharpen, and it sort of has that magic window as far as the heat treat's concerned that Mike Stewart likes to talk about. About 60.5 to 61 Rockwell, I think, is where Mike told me this stuff likes to be. This is just such a beautiful cutting blade. A fine skinning knife. It's the right size to skin with. It's not too big. And lots of belly for big sweeping skin cuts. Just, oh gosh. And a great all-purpose camp knife. I'm not sure that I would baton this knife. You certainly could. I'd probably use something a little less precise. I'd carry a bigger fixed blade with me to baton with if I took this out in the woods, but just because it's such a beautiful cutter, I wouldn't want to beat on that edge. I mean, guys. Oh my. Now this is a little large-ish for that EDC class. Let's set it next to the featherweight Fox River. Let's see, I'm going to even up the tips at the far end of your screen, and you can see how much longer the handle is, or how far the handle extends. Actually, the handles are probably just about the same length. In fact, were it not for the lanyard slot, I believe the Trail Buddy would be a shorter handle than the featherweight Fox River. So, there you have that. So, a lot of blade, a little bitty sort of handle on this one. Next, let's look at, oh gosh, you talk about a laser. This knife scares me, almost makes me bleed looking at it. This is the Mini Sachs, and it's got a handle almost identical to the Mini Aurora, which I should have probably brought down here for this video, but didn't. Let's kind of take a look at these guys side by side. Again, this has got about a 3 3/4 inch blade, and the handle is going to be almost exactly the same size as the featherweight Fox River, just like you saw with the Mini Aurora, but the handle actually grips larger because this pommel area doesn't intrude into the palm quite so much. So this knife is really comfortable in an overhand pinch grip with 4 fingers inside the pommel. The featherweight Fox River, it's sort of cramped to do that. It really pushes me forward on the grip. It's actually more comfortable to use in that grip, dangling the pinky. So the same size handle, this one actually performs more large than the featherweight Fox River. I really like this handle, really like it. But instead of that sort of drop point, spear point Mini Aurora, the Mini Sachs is a Warncliffe. Notice one thing. I always like to look at bases of edges on Bark Rivers. The Trail Buddy, I needed to do nothing to the choil in order to get good edge to the back. You know, it's got this sort of beard that hangs down past the plunge grind, makes it really easy to resharpen. The Mini Sachs had a sharpening notch or sharpening choil past the ricasso. It was a little small though. It didn't really clear the plunge grind. I had to enlarge it just a bit. And you can see if you look at the polish of my apex, how the polished convex area flares a little bit because the knife thickens at the edge a little bit. Pretty common with Bark River knives. Remember guys, these are ground convex on slack belts. So the abrasive media is on a flexible substrate, and it's just very hard to get a true square corner when you're doing that. It's hard to do it when you're resharpening too. It takes kind of an interesting technique to do that. Now this knife, about the same thickness as the Trail Buddy at the spine. I think no, this is not the same thickness. This is an 1/8 inch at the spine. So although its convex grind doesn't start as high up as the Trail Buddy, it's made from thinner stock. So we again get to a nice thin dimension and very gradual behind the edge. And it's made of A2. Again, takes a super fine, keen edge and a great polish. And it's a superior slicer. Shocking. A small bark river that's a superior slicer. Gee, never seen that before. This is a great knife in the Sachs series. Comes in 3 sizes from Bark River. The smaller they get, the more wornish they get. The largest one has the most belly and looks more sheepfoot-ish. It has more of a tighter radius, and the tip is more vertical at the spine. The smallest one is the most worny-ish of the 3. What a great utility knife. What a great vegetable cutter-upper before dinner out in the campground, you know. Just a great utility blade, and you can do such fine work with that tip. Oh. This one did come with kind of a funny tip. It was just a little ragged at the tip, and I not only sharpened it, of course, but also just brought the spine down ever so slightly to meet the sharpened tip. So it's a nice, super needle-like tip. This has got to be a big seller. Wharncliffes are so hot in 2016. You can just imagine cutting up veggies with that, can't you? Enough belly that you can still cut up food without whacking your tip into your cutting board every time. Nicely done. And now let's look at the Rising Wolf. By the way, before we do that, this is in stunning Burgundy linen micarta with white liners and mosaic pins. You know, I always look at these Burgundy micarta knives and I never pull the trigger on them. So thank you, Scott, for buying one. It's not black. I don't know how this is going to come through on camera. It is burgundy. It is a deep, deep burgundy. White liners look great with it. Oh, gorgeous. This is basically the sheath that comes with the mini Sachs. This is, I'm trying to remember what knife I have that came with this sheath. It might very well be this one, actually. Let's see how it rides. Got a lot of handle sticking out of that. This is the same sheath as the featherweight Fox River. But they needed something slim for that Warney blade, so I wonder if that might not work better carrying it right-handed in a left-handed sheath. I think it would. Look at that profile, the stitching versus the blade. It really should go backwards. So actually, this should be a left-handed sheath, right? Yeah, that's how that should go, and it should go on my hip instead of Scott's hip. I don't think that's going to fly. Okay, now we move on to the Rising Wolf, which is going to be the most similar in the size to the featherweight Fox River. In fact, very similar in size. Very similar in profile, except for that silly lanyard slot. So this handle is going to be shorter than the FFR by a little bit. But again, I'm trying not to bang my edges together here. Even though it's shorter in overall dimension, it's not that much shorter inside the pommel because this one's so big. But you're again going to have a 4-finger grip in saber and hammer grips, and then Actually, well, that kind of lets you do that in a forward pinch. So very economical. It's really a lot like the featherweight Fox River in every way, except a little thicker at the spine. Again, you've got that 147-ish stock, but completely full height convex. So again, guess what, guys? It slices really well. Maybe not quite as scary as the Trail Buddy, but still super effective. If I didn't mention it, this one's an S35 also. I think Derek did a good job, if indeed it was he who influenced this design. It's so dressy, isn't it, with that stainless steel bolster. I will tell you guys this, if you haven't picked it up already, scanning the Bark River stock on your favorite website. And believe it or not, I'm going to criticize a Bark River knife in a negative way. I don't buy Bark Rivers that have these bolsters because I cannot abide being able to see those Corby bolts in the bolster. I'm a sort of a traditional knife aficionado, and if there's one thing that reveals the character of a cheap traditional pocket knife, it's that you can see the rivet in the bolster, and this just looks bad to me. For knives that cost around $200, maybe more, if they have this gorgeous black burl. I'm not sure what wood this is, but it's gorgeous. I don't expect to see fasteners in a bolster. We should really do something about that, guys. But other than that, just a gorgeous drop point. Again, with that beard past the plunge grind. Gives us no issues in resharpening. Gives us a nice finger choil. This Rising Wolf is a knife that I don't think sold well enough. They ran these a while ago, and they're still in stock, both on Derek's site, Knife Ship Free, and DLT Trading, and most Bark River dealers still have these Rising Wolf knives in stock. If you like them, go get one. They're pretty cool, and it comes with a super neat sheath. It's got this basket weave sheath with the smooth leather on the border. It looks like it's vertical only, but just super handsome. It goes with that dressy nature of the knife. Got quite a bit of handle sticking out of that one. Actually get 2 fingers and a thumb on that one to come out. What a bunch of beauties. I thought you'd like to see them before I ship them off to their home. I think it's always good to see Bark River knives in hand. If you like them and you're collecting them, you don't know whether there's a model you want to buy or not. It helps to see how they fit in the hand and what their geometry is like and how they're ground. I got to tell you guys too, I love convex sharpening. I sit behind that Edge Pro all day long, sharpen your modern folders and traditional pocket knives with V-grinds. And it's a grind sometimes. But when I sit behind my little hillbilly homemade convex fixture with the leather pad and the sandpaper and the clamps made out of plated brackets, when I sit behind there and get in the groove, get in the zone, heck, I start sanding the skin off my fingers and they bleed. And who cares? I love it. It's like a Zen thing. And by the way, they get pretty sharp. Well, that's all for this one, my friends. Have a great rest of your day. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and all these convex Bark River knives are sharp.